What's going on, guys? In today's video I'm going to discuss ARK Invest and their 5 ETFs and my plans and goals to invest into these 5 ETFs. Today we will discuss ARK Innovation ETF, ticker symbol ARKK, and the Autonomous Technology and Robotics, ticker symbol ARKQ. I have now invested into both of these ETFs manually because on Trading212 these ETFs are not available. So I will discuss how I've done that and my plan of action for those also going forward, and I'll also give a brief outlook and description on both of these ETFs before we jump onto Trading212. So just briefly what both of these ETFs are, let's start with ARK Innovation ETF with ticker symbol ARKK. It currently has 8.9 billion in fund AUM, and if you scroll down here we can see the description for this ETF is that the ARKs are expected to focus on and benefit from the development of new products or services, tech improvements, and advancements in scientific research related to, among other things, disruptive innovation across ARK's teams, next generation internet, autonomous technology and robotics, genomic revolution, and technologies that make financial services more efficient. It's always very important to assess the weightings of any ETF when deciding on which ones to pick, and in terms of this ARK ETF, we can see that the healthcare sector takes up the majority of their weighted allocation with 35.5%. They then have IT with 28.7%, communication services and consumer discretionary are up next, then financial and industrials, and finally with non-classified making up the 0.6%. Also, in terms of this ETF, their top 10 holdings make up 52% of the overall weighting, and they are Tesla, Invita, Squire, Roku, Crisp Therapeutics, Proto Labs, Zillow Group, 2U Incorporated, Lending Tree, and Teladoc Health make up the top 10 holdings. So as I mentioned, these ARK Invest ETFs are not on Trading212 as such, but you can, however, make them up yourself manually. And because, for example, on this ETF alone, there's about 45 holdings, that if we scroll down here, we can see all the different weightings from the lowest all up to the highest. We know that because there's 45, that's quite a lot to continually monitor. So my plan of action is to firstly pick the top 25 companies in terms of weighting here, and then we'll adjust weekly. So with ARK Invest, they daily bring out a chart or a notification to say which holdings they've bought or sold, and also the weighting adjustments. So I'll be updating this every single Monday. So I picked the 25 top positions as I said, and I will jump onto Trading212 to see how we're doing. Here we are on Trading212. You can see here on the left that we have invested now in the ARK Innovation ETF, ticker symbol ARKK. Since starting this ETF only a few hours ago, we're up 3.8% already, which is very impressive in my opinion. We'll also discuss the autonomous tech and robotics later on in today's video. Then we also have, in the next few days, we need to start the FinTech Innovation ARK ETF, the genomic revolution, and the next gen internet. So they will always have €200 starting off as well. So we have €600 free funds. We have €5,398 invested, which gives us an overall account value of about €6,000. We can also see my Now or Never Finance ETF that I discussed yesterday is currently up 12.1%. So that's the highest it's been as of yet. So I'm quite happy with how these investments have been doing over the past few days. But firstly, let's just focus in on the ARK Innovation ETF, ticker symbol ARRK. So as I said, we put €200 in today and we're up €7.40 or 3.7% at the moment. We copied ARK Invest's weighting for the top 25 companies. So our top weighting here is Tesla with 12%, obviously, because I only have 25 of the 45 companies. I had to adjust the weightings accordingly to incorporate in the weightings if there was only 25 companies. But like, for example, the top holdings here we have are Tesla, Roku, Crisp Therapeutics, Squire, Invita, Teladoc, and Spotify kind of make up the top 5 or 6 holdings in this ETF as of now. It's also worth noting that I previously stated I'll continually monitor these ETFs on a weekly basis every Monday to update my weightings and if any of the companies have been bought or sold within the top 25 list in this ETF. Let's also have a quick look at the Autonomous Tech and Robotics ETF, ticker symbol ARKQ, with a fund AUM of 633 million. We can also see here on the PDF that according to ARK's research, the autonomous ride-hailing opportunity should be worth more than $1 trillion today, $5 trillion by 2024, and a massive $9 trillion by 2029. Obviously, because this ETF revolves around IT, it's no surprise that information technology makes up the highest weighting here with 41.6%. Industrials, consumer discretionary are in second and third place. We can also see their top 10 holdings here, the top again being Tesla in this group with just under 11% weighting, but again we'll go into these top holdings when we jump back over to my Trading212 portfolio. Again, just like the ARK Innovation ETF, the autonomous Tekken Robotics, I also invested in the top 25 holdings here as well. We are currently up 0.67%, which isn't too shabby at all. I'd take that every day of the week. If it went up 0.6% every day, I'd be quite wealthy in a few months or even a few years. So the top holdings here are Tesla, Materialize, Alphabet Incorporated Class C, JD, ADR, Trimble and Deere & Co. As both of these ETFs I just invested in a few hours ago, so it's quite hard to gauge the performance. We nearly need to wait a few weeks until these settle down. Next up, I'll be investing €200 into each of the FinTech Innovation, Genomic Revolution and Next Gen Internet. And once I have the three of those made, I will make a follow-up video on that. That will then have €6,000 overall invested in the market. Over time, then also, I continually add in designated funds into each of these 5 ETFs accordingly. And it'll be interesting to see the difference between, let's say, my Now or Never Finance ETF, where I mainly focus on dollar cost averaging. So I don't really use the weightings here at all in this ETF. I just wait until any of my positions drop below, let's say, the 3% threshold, and I buy more on the dip to help improve my dollar cost averaging. Whereas with the ARK Invest ETFs, I'm actually using the weightings. So it's going to be interesting to see the difference between, let's say, using the weightings and also dollar cost averaging in different pies. Also, as there's so many companies within these 5 ETFs, I'll have about 125 companies or so, or maybe a bit less in terms of duplications, but it's still quite hard to keep track of all of these. So what I would recommend is have a blank Excel for each of these 5 ETFs individually and can update as you go week by week, so you're able to keep track of your progress and also the weightings per company. As it's currently about 7 p.m. GMT, I still have about 2 hours before the market's closed. So after this video, I'm going to start working on these 3 other ARK Invest ETFs, and I'm going to start investing €200 into each of these as well. So by tomorrow's video, I'll have a more concrete ARK ETF structure, and I'll go through each of the 3 of these, and we can also see how the top 2 are performing after 1 day's investing. We'll also check tomorrow if the Now or Never Finance ETF is continually growing. It's after going up about 3.5% today, so I'm quite happy with that as well. So that's pretty much it for today's video, guys. I just find this very interesting in terms of these ARK Innovation ETFs, as I do believe, number 1, there's a lot of potential still there for each of these 5 ETFs, and number 2, I feel that I'm going to learn a lot more in terms of investing by investing into these style ETFs, and it's a more kind of hands-on approach than, let's say, my Now or Never Finance ETF, where that's more kind of blue chip safe companies that go up a few percent every week or so. But this new ARK ETFs, the top 5 here, there'll be a lot more volatility, but there's a lot more reward, even though there is a bit more risk. But we will be keeping these 5 ETFs smaller positions than, let's say, my overall main ETF here in terms of Now or Never Finance, which currently has just under €5,000. So if this video was any way helpful or entertaining, it'd be brilliant if you consider liking the video, as this would help more people find the video as well. And as always, if you're new around here, please consider subscribing to the channel, as we're just about 25 or so away from our next goal of 600 subscribers. Also, comment below. I'd be very interested to see if anyone else is taking this style of approach in terms of investing in the ARK ETFs. Thanks very much, guys, and I'll see y'all in tomorrow's video.